Well, hello and welcome to I Love Gay today. And we are in Canada today, all the way in Halifax. And we are here with Bruce Bishop, author of a series of books, the Family Storytelling Trilogy. How are you?
I'm doing well, Matt, and thanks so much for inviting me on your show.
Well, it's great to see you here and have you here. It's fun. When you told me that our time difference was you were an hour ahead of me, and I'm on the East Coast, I was thinking to myself, I don't think I realized fully that yeah, you're in that far flung part of Canada that I have not traveled to yet.
Oh my gosh, well you have to come first of all this summer. But yeah, I'm on Atlantic Daylight Time or Atlantic Standard Time, and there's still another time zone in Canada, which is in Newfoundland and Labrador, and
Yeah.
they are 1/2 hour ahead of me. So a little confusing for first timers who come up to the Atlantic provinces.
One of these days. We actually have an I Love Gay profile for Halifax and St. John's and so forth. And I'm always amazed I love watching Halifax Pride come to life through social media. And also, it seems like a lot happens in, is it PEI, Prince Edward Island?
Yeah, Prince Edward
Yeah.
Island is probably well, it is the smallest province in the country, but certainly lots of things to do and beautiful beaches and nice warm waters and
And a
all
huge
those.
LGBT community.
Yes, yeah, very much so. Yeah.
But getting back to you, so you wrote a trilogy, and it's interesting because kind of going through them, you have LGBT characters kind of woven in and out of all three, but it's really after your first one, it's called Unconventional Daughters, but it was your second one, Uncommon Sons, and that's the one that you really have a very strong LGBT focus.
Yeah, I decided to make the protagonist, the main character, as a young gay man in the 1930s during the Depression. And of the three books, really, that's the most personal book to me. And but as you said, yes, I've got gay characters in all three novels, and they're to be sort of like matter of fact characters. All three novels are, I guess you'd call, historical fiction. And when I was growing up, and I did a lot of reading, and never once came across any gay characters in just mainstream historical fiction family sagas. So I thought, well, okay, I guess it's about time to do that.
So, so you created it.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the only one, that's for sure, but certainly that's was my interest, and had so much fun doing it because when you just sit down and think that there's been gay people for centuries, but for so long ignored or just tolerated or just there, but not in everyday fiction, in everyday life, we didn't really come across those characters in
Yeah.
fiction.
But how did you get started with this, especially with your first story, which was kind of sad even uh back in during the Great Depression and so forth, but it was Unconventional Daughters. But how did you get started with all this?
Okay, yeah. So Unconventional Daughters, in fact, begins in the 1880s
Oh, okay.
In Sweden, and it's basically inspired by a true story of a woman who, a Nova Scotian, a Canadian woman who, in 1927, married her stepfather,
Oh,
uh, with the approval, of course, of her mother after the divorce happened. And I had access, and I still have these original honeymoon letters that this young woman had written her mother when when the daughter was on honeymoon in Europe, and it just sort of inspired the story. And I thought, what an unusual family dynamic this was.
yeah.
How, what if the family was expanded a bit with even more characters? And that way I was able to introduce a lesbian aunt and her lover. I was able to introduce a bisexual character because once you're inspired for just the general story of this strange marriage between a young woman and her stepfather, then everything else kind of falls together.
Yeah, I know all this. Well, what's interesting, I mean, even backing up a little bit, what's interesting is that I think how you and I connected and what I've seen you do is that you're very strong, you're very good and strong on social media and with your website and so forth. But because I see you across all the platforms, including YouTube, and so you've done it, you're getting yourself out there. But you've got a blog also on your website, and that actually helped me kind of have a chance to kind of get better understanding of who you are, what you're thinking, and so forth. And I have a feeling those are all working very well for you.
Well, I sure hope so because as an independent author or self-published author, we have to be, chief cook and bottle washer. We don't have publicists. We don't have marketing people. We don't
Yeah,
have even an agent to pat us on the back when good things happen or to encourage
yeah,
us along. So it's a bit of a tough road, but social media has just been a lifeblood for me because uh, again, it's organic marketing
yeah,
and
yeah,
word spreads. Just like this is how I came across your show, was on Facebook, and thought, wow, I wonder if I could write that guy and see if he'll talk to me. And
That's
and
always
sure
good for
enough,
me to hear.
yeah, well, it's true. I mean, I
Yeah,
think I won't maybe agree all the time with any publicity is good publicity,
yeah,
um, because negative publicity obviously, isn't. But in this case, I think it's important for especially younger aspiring writers or
yeah,
wannabe writers to realize that you can do it. It doesn't matter what part of the spectrum you're on. You
mhm,
can also be a writer, and if you have to, want to, need to, you can self-publish.
yeah. There's actually an entire uh, variety of different, let's just say niche groups or niche, just any things that are out there that are extremely powerful on social media, more so than others. Maybe you might say they over-index. And what I'll say is that the whole world of books, literature, poetry, amazing in terms of their outreach, especially what I see a lot on Twitter. But I don't think everybody realizes that. That I mean, between I would say books, literature, and also podcasts, and those genres, I can't begin to describe to people if they're not there in that space how much content is available for us to see.
Oh, absolutely. And I think too, though, writers have to decide, which platforms really will work
Yeah,
the best for them. Now, for
yeah,
example, I decided to try TikTok on two occasions last year and
yeah,
then realized that okay, it's still a learning curve. Takes your time to get a following, and I really didn't feel like I had the time, especially when I realized that historical fiction wouldn't be quite as strong a draw to TikTokers as, say, romance or
yeah.
fantasy or whatever. So I'm pretty much concentrating on Facebook,
Yeah.
Instagram, and to a degree Twitter. Yeah.
Well, you're gonna have to get yourself out there, do a little dance, do number one, number two, number three, and try to figure out how to be able to match those up.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
But in addition, you've done a lot of traveling as well. Yes.
I was a travel writer
Yeah.
from the late 90s up until about 2008 or 9,
Yeah.
and wrote guidebooks, contributed to all the major guidebook publishers.
Yeah.
Really had a great time. I did see quite a tremendous difference, though, after the economic slowdown in 2008,
Yeah.
with travel writing in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was working more in public relations after that.
Which
And
actually makes a lot of sense. In my world, I work with a lot of tourism and travel clients, and even though tourism is very strong in, especially like LGBT outreach and so forth, but a lot of the smaller details when it came to airlines giving away tickets to bring folks in, and a lot of those small things, a lot of that went away.
oh, for sure. I
Yeah,
remember when I first started too, I self-financed.
yeah,
Oh gosh, I don't know how many trips initially before the tourist boards and the destination management companies began to notice who I was, and
yeah,
then I would get the invitations to travel. But yeah, I don't regret a day of it. It was incredible.
yeah,
Older now, and I think I'm a little bit more of a homebody and kind of prefer the writing here
yeah,
rather
yeah.
than writing on the wing, so to speak.
Well, one of the things I enjoyed, even because it was in your blogs and your website, with learning about you and traveling, but also I read and learned that you wrote a lot in your blog about adopting a novel for television. And are you doing that for your trilogy here?
I am. As a matter of fact, the first book was almost written in a sense of thinking, is will it be visual? Can I have chapters that are short enough that are almost like movie scenes?
Yeah,
So I was writing the first book like that, and then I continued that sort of style in the second and third book. Um, but rather than getting into a ton of detail right now, I have written the screenplay for Uncommon Sons, which is the second book with the gay protagonist. And I do have a producer on board who I will be producing with,
Yeah.
hopefully, a screenplay or feature film rather. And right now we're talking to a female director in Denmark because she's quite interested in the project. So, where there's a will, there's a way, is the way I look at things. And if you have a dream, eh, just keep at it. I mean, I don't know when this is going to happen. I might be, 90 years old in a wheelchair, but damn it, that feature film's going to happen. So
That's what it takes. It takes tenacity, somebody to take the lead and push it through, and passion. So it sounds like you've got all that.
well, I hope so. That's for sure.
Well, I love this. We're going to make sure that when we post this, especially on YouTube, I'm going to have links to your website and the book, making it easy for folks to find your books and so forth. And but mostly, I'm just really glad you were able to take a few moments of your time and kind of share a bit of your story here with our audience.
Well, thank you, because I know your audience is international, Matt,
Yeah,
and I like to think that the books, because I have readers in the UK and in the US and certainly all over Canada. Again, Amazon is the great equalizer.
yeah,
Everybody can
yeah,
go on Amazon and type in the name of the book or the author and find it. So
exactly.
appreciate you chatting with me today for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, and look forward to connecting soon.
Cheers. Okay. Bye bye.
So good.